What is happening between Israel and Palestine?
This is what is happening between Israel and Palestine. On October 7th, Palestinian militant group Hamas launched an attack on Israel by land, by sea, and by air. It was the first time Hamas directly invaded Israel. It is described to be same as the September 11th moment in the US. It is the worst surprise attack carried out by Hamas in 50 years. They attacked homes, civilians, properties. Over 1,500 people died, thousands injured, and hundreds kidnapped.
Was this war planned or abrupt?
No one saw it coming, but at the same time, it was not a surprise. The last time serious violence broke out between Israel and Palestine was in 2021, but it was nothing like this. And therefore, Israel promised swift and furious retaliation, saying that they were to launch a complete siege on Gaza.
Jesus is Lord.
The bombings are going on and the ground offensive is to be launched soon. It is an urban warfare on one of the most densely populated areas on earth.
But how was Israel formed?
Israel is the only Jewish nation in the world. And it didn't officially exist till 1948. But Israel and Palestine have been having history of violent dispute over land, political control, and resources dating back to few thousand years. Both Muslims and Jews have strong religious and cultural ties towards the region dating back to 4,000 years ago. And Abraham is considered to be the father of the two religions.
Oh. And how do the Israeli claim that part of the world as their home?
According to them, God told Abraham to settle in Canaan, which is modern-time Israel. In 1000 BCE, King Saul established the Israelite monarchy. King David followed, then his son Solomon, who later built a Jewish temple in Jerusalem. This historical legacy is partly why Israel claimed that that part of land was theirs, which was later occupied by other groups including Persians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Egyptians, Fatimids, Seljuks, Crusaders, Mamluks, and the Ottomans. They therefore called the place Palestine, which was having the Arab majority and the Jewish minority. But they were both claiming that the land, Palestine, was theirs.
So how important was this area of conflict?
Before I tell you how important this area of conflict was, this to let you know that this information is powered by the Forest Resort Lweza Entebbe, Uganda. That place is so marvelous. It has good swimming pool, good accommodation, good gardens, good restaurant and bar with all kind of foods and drinks. You can do all kind of parties, wedding parties, birthday parties, and all other kind of events that you want to do from there. Go and check it out.
So how important was this area of conflict?
Many consider this site to be home and sacred by Jews, Muslims, and Christians. During the transition, though, the Jews were forced to flee the area, creating a dispersion of people from their homeland. But in Europe, the Jewish people started facing persecution and suppression. So in 1880, they decided to migrate back to the promised land, which was Palestine, occupied by the Ottoman Empire by that time. And by 1914, there were a total of 75,000 Jews in that area. And after the end of World War I, Britain took over the modern-day Israel, Palestine, and Jordan from the Ottoman Empire.
Yes. Is that all?
No, that's not all. In 1922, the League of Nations approved the British Declaration that promised a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. But it will not be more than 2 decades before that promise was fulfilled. In 1939, the World War II broke out. More than 6 million Jews were murdered in the Holocaust, and millions were displaced.
Jesus is Lord.
In 1947, after the end of World War II, the United Nations decided to divide Palestine into 2, the Jewish state of Israel and the Arab state of Palestine, while Jerusalem was supposed to be shared by both and recognized as an international city.
Hey.
Israel agreed to the partition. Borders were drawn between the 2 states, but the Arab residents, the Palestinians, were dissatisfied with the decision, saying that they were favoring the Jews. Violence broke out again.
So what was the next development?
On May 14th, 1948, the State of Israel was formed and David Ben-Gurion became its prime minister. The Arab League countries rejected the partition and attacked. Israel fought back. The conflict took 9 months, and during that period, Israel had occupied much land which was designated to be for the Arab state of Palestine. Egypt, who were siding with the Palestine, took control of the Gaza Strip, while Jordan, who were siding with the Palestine, took control of the West Bank, while the Israeli forces took control of Jerusalem from the west, while Jordan forces took control of Jerusalem from the east. The original plan for the Palestinian state was scrapped. Over 720,000 Arabs fled, expelled from their homes, and they had to take refuge in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And according to the Hebrews, this was the war for independence. But according to the Arabs, this was the biggest catastrophe. The tension between Arabs, Jews, and Muslims continued for decades.
For how long did this conflict continue?
Listen, fighting between Israel and Arab neighbors continued on and off for the next 60 years. In 1964, Palestine Liberation Organization, PLO, was formed to consolidate the power for many small Palestinian groups. In the 1967 Six-Day War, Israel defeated the army of Egypt, Syria, Jordan, and gained control of significant territory. In 1987, following an incident with an Israeli defense forces that left 4 Palestinian refugees dead, Palestinian militias led a violent uprising known as the Intifada, the first Intifada, that resulted to hundreds of deaths. After, Israeli and the PLO created a timetable for peace. It was called the Oslo Accords. Further agreements failed that were to address the issues that concerned the status of Jerusalem, rights of refugees, and continued Israeli occupants of Palestinian land. Later that year, Ariel Sharon, the Israeli Prime Minister, visited the Al-Aqsa Mosque, in which the Palestinians found it as offensive and disrespectful. They started violence and suicide bombings, and calling for the second Intifada violence, which lasted 5 years, which broke the Oslo Accord. The violence ended in 2005 when Israel finally withdrew from the Gaza Strip.
You mean this conflict has been up to this recent?
Yes, even in 2006, Hamas won a Palestine legislative elections, but many countries recognize Hamas as a terrorist group because of the kind of suicide bombings that they do. So in 2017, the Hamas negotiated for the formation of the Palestinian state using the 1967 borders, but they did not recognize Israel as a state. Israel did not accept. The conflicts are still on. Countries are still negotiating for peace, and the place still remains significant for different religious and ethnic backgrounds.
So how can you bring us up to speed concerning this?
Listen, most Palestinian refugees and descendants live in Gaza and the West Bank. Israel won't allow them to go back to their homes. Israel claiming that this would overwhelm the country and threaten their existence as a Jewish state. Jerusalem remains as the holiest place on earth for the Jews, Christians, and Muslims. While the Israelis claim that the whole of Jerusalem is the capital city of Israel, while the Palestinians claim that east of Jerusalem is the capital of their future state. For the past 50 years, Israel has been building settlements in Jerusalem, settling over 600,000 Jews there. But according to the Palestine, that act is illegal under international law. Most peace deals brokered has been unsuccessful because Palestinians claim that they are always one-sided and therefore bringing about violence, anger, and distrust. And the areas of conflicts is majorly the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and the east of Jerusalem, bringing about what you saw on 7th October 2023. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more.